Sure, now it is audible to you, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Right. So, welcome to Day 2 C language training program. And as a part of today's session, we will be understanding some programming basics, and we learn how to create comments in the C language. We introduce some of the data types that we usually use while creating C language programs. And finally, we speak some important points related to main function and printf function. Okay, so this is today's agenda. Okay, for day 1, day 2, day 3 are very important, so that's why I'm taking personally I'm explaining you. So later sessions, like if you miss something, we can create videos. Like however, like while explaining, I want to create videos. Okay, so understand like where we went wrong, but like where you got some kind of questions that can be recorded too. Okay, that is my intention. All right, so let me start with this. The first slide.
Last week's slides and this week's slides, it will be good.
I will be sharing them. Okay, I will share all the slides. Okay, so this is the second program that you are looking at. Maybe in the first session, I showed you one small simple program where we printed "Hello World" kind of thing. So
yeah.
The second program that we are looking at, and you can see that this program also contains a main function. So from this, we can understand that main is very important function, and every program that we uses in C language, it contains a main program. Okay. Yeah. And it is also observed that there is an include function, an include statement here. So this is also mandatory while writing C program, which contains a header file. I already explained files contains how functions that we use within the program can be used. Okay, this predefines, this header file predefines printf function. Okay, we call them predefined function, and this will be created by you. So though the name is main function, but whatever the content that should be included in the main function, that will be defined by us. And this is a printf function which says like whatever written inside should be sent to the output device. Okay, so compiler will understand printf function when it is used, it should send whatever inside printf function to the output. Okay, these are predefined functions, and this is the function that we create. Okay, so to make it simple, this is the second program. Just try to remember the statements. While explaining, you will understand how this program can be run. So from this program, we can see that the program contains braces. We call them these curly braces as braces. Okay, and this program contains parentheses which will be used immediately after the function name. Okay, we got a function name, main is the function name, and this function name immediately after the function name we use parentheses. Okay, here we define things, we declare some kind of data types, and we try to explain what to do, like this kind of thing. Maybe this is a string kind of thing. Okay, so that we are using, sorry, the content that we are using here is string. Okay, usually main, well, if it contains some any arguments, we can say int a, int b in that way. So the parenthesis contains definition, and the braces contains statements. Okay, we use different commands and statements inside the braces, and when we use parentheses inside that, we use some kind of arguments or some kind of declarations. Okay. So these two are two different things, and we have a backslash that is used inside the program where here. Okay, and we got a command return 0. So these backslashes are used for the escape sequences. Okay, so I will explain you in these programs. You also come across escape sequences. Okay, we just need to know that we are supposed to use braces as they are. Okay, so for example, usually what we do when we do writing mathematical equations or performing some kind of calculations, what we do, we replace parentheses with square brackets with parentheses, right? That is not allowed while writing a C program. So each type of the program, like when we while writing the program, each character will have a certain kind of requirement that should be followed. Okay, so braces should be used when we are writing some kind of statements inside when we need statements to be written, we use a separate. Give me a second. 1 second. Kudama, Nana, I'm taking class. Why you are making noise? Huh? Come inside. What sound says huh? Just give me 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, don't make noise. Do whatever you want, but don't make noise. You're 15. Do not make. So don't do that. Huh? Don't make noise. Check another class in the Nana. What geezer on there, Nana?
Sorry, sir. Maybe me family time.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
They are making noise outside. And the office king actually. I don't want to take class and I want to leave. Okay, right. I'm resuming it. Sure. So then what happens is whenever you want to create some kind of block, means we are using two different functions, main function and a sub function. Each function is considered as a block of the code, and each block contains certain number of statements to be written. Got it? So while writing such statements or commands, we use curly braces, and while defining the, like here we define a function, like this function is defined by the braces.
Yeah.
So the braces, they contain some kind of arguments that should be passed. Here we are passing a string kind of argument to the output screen simply. And these backslashes are used for the purpose of escape sequences. We cannot replace them. If we replace these with other type of braces or brackets, what happens is it generates error or it generates incorrect responses. System will generate, compiler will generate inappropriate responses. Okay, so we need to use these things properly. Nice. Main function. Every program, whatever the program you write, it contains certain number of programs. Usually when we are writing C, it contains any, like when you take C, Java, whatever it is. We create certain number of functions just for the purpose of reusability. Okay. Each function contains certain number of statements, and each function will be created for the certain purpose. Okay. If you take, for example, here you got, right, calculated, calcit, calculated. Maybe we are using this function for performing addition. If you create it like that. So this function will contain statements or business logic that performs addition activity. Okay, if you take this function, it is created to calculate length of the string. For example, if we give input as this, if you give this statement as input to this function, it should generate a total number of characters inside that, including white spaces. Okay, so this contains statements that are related to calculating length of the string that is provided as input. So the way it is explained, every function will have a certain purpose, and the statements inside that function are responsible for performing that activity. So in the same way, like main functions, the role is to perform, like work as an interface between the user and the compiler. Like whatever the activities, executable activities that you give, it will be given to the main function, and all the sub functions that are used in the code will be separately written outside the main function, and from main function we call each and every activity. For example, if you use a main function and which contains several sub functions, so from main we call calculated by passing values from the main. From main we call printf. From main we can call string length. So for any program, main is the actual function that is used to execute various kinds of functions and statements within the program. So to satisfy the purpose of creating a program, or like using a program, the commands, most of the commands will be given inside the main function that ensures that the program is run properly and actual output, expected outcome is created. Okay, so like there will be like two different things. We will be having a functions and we will have commands. So main is a function as it is explained, and there will be certain sub functions. Their purpose is to generate some kind of routine or some kind of activity. Routine means activity. So here we get some kind of commands. So some of the examples are return. Return is a command. Command means the instruction that is given to the compiler. Okay, when you say return some value, it returns some value. So we consider it as a command. Okay, so like if we are using a loop, while loop, so we will be using while to repetitively test some activity. For example, if I is greater than 10, means it repetitively verifies whether I is greater than 10 or not. If it is greater than 10, the commands that like the instructions or statements that are given inside the while loop should be repeatedly used or repeatedly called. Those statements or commands will be repeatedly called. So here the while is a command which reviews whether the given condition is true or false. If true, it performs some kind of activity. If false, it will do some other activity. Okay. So similarly, int is also a kind of command. What we are saying, we are defining. See, we are using a variable int a. Int a is equal to 10. It is a command that is given, like saying to the compiler that the programs commands the compiler to understand that a is an integer type and it contains a value of 10. So that is these all are commands and these are functions. Okay, these functions will be used for the purpose of performing some kind of routines or other activities, and these functions can be repetitively used. So and these statements are they will be used, and unless like until they are true, they will be active. Okay, so some examples. These are some examples of commands and functions. I hope you understood that main function is very important, and it is the actual function that performs all the activities, and all sub functions will be written outside the main and they will be called whenever they are required. So this statement should be remembered. Next, kinds of data. So these are some basics. So usually, like when we are using data while creating a database, while creating a C program, we broadly define data into three different types. One is characters, numerical and non-numerical. Let us make it a numerical and non-numerical. Okay. So again, by classifying it, we call characters, integers, and floating points. Okay, so here numerical values are divided into two types, one having decimal value and the other having no decimal. Okay, so these three types are widely used when we create a C programming language. So characters are like any kind of name. To create a name, to create some textual content, we use characters. Okay, a character is a single character, means like if you take something in between single quotes, we consider it as a character, and it should be a one letter. Okay, so string contains more than one letter, character contains only one letter. You take this one here, you can like it can be alphanumerical, or it also uses symbols. You see that here example of characteristic can be a or a small a or a 4 or percentage or minus. These all can be considered as characters. Anything that is present on your keyboard, mostly like characters. Okay, you can see A, B, C, D, F, G, H. You can see that, and there will be certain number of symbols. Considering C language, it can accept approximately 256, not exactly 256 different characters it can take. Okay, so here character should be defined, like when you are defining a character or when you are giving a value to the character, like if you define variable var, so that var can take any value that is kept inside single quotes. Okay, so this should be inside single quotes, and it should be one letter. If you give more than one letter, it will generate error. A character can take only one letter of alphabets and symbols, and that letter should be kept inside single quotes. Got it?
Yes, sir.
This is simply like we call apostrophes, right? So in general we call them single quotes.
Yeah.
That is about character. And to create a stream of, when you use a stream of characters, we call it string. And while learning arrays and while using strings, we will know about it. Okay, stream of characters will be declared as a character array. We don't use any string kind of keyword in C language. We use C character array to use strings. Got it? So later stages, while using strings, string kind of concepts, we can learn about that kind of data type. Next one is integers. Integers, you know that like usually it is a general definition that is a mathematical definition that can be given. Any number containing plus or minus symbol is called an integer, and it also includes 0. Okay, so minus infinity to plus infinity including 0 is called an integer. A simple thing. And integers do not contain any decimal points. So to characterize integer, it can be any number including 0, and it should not contain any decimal value, and it can contain any sign, positive or negative sign.
Okay.
Called integers. For example, if we take 1 minus 2, it will become minus 1. It as an integer value. And if you take 1 plus 2, it is equal to 3, then it is also considered as it is also an integer. Okay, so to perform this kind of activities, we definitely need integer type of data types, and integers play very crucial role while to perform calculations and other things. Okay, so to test some kind of decision rules also we need integers, like various purpose we use integer type of values. Next one is floating point. See, we already like we see that while performing certain calculations, we come across values that contains decimals, right? To handle such kind of data, we need floating points. Okay, we also have double. We can also use double in C language, but mostly we use floating points because to make it simple, like if you see the image that is provided over here, you can see that the amount of space, the amount of space that occupies by the floating value is double the size of integer value. You can see that 1923 is larger than 128, but the amount of space memory that is required to store 121.34 is larger than to store 1923. Okay, so we are supposed to use optimal values because the memory that will be available to perform activities will be limited, right? So for that, what usually programmers do is wherever it is required, there only they take floating values or double values. If you same thing is applied for float and double value will be double of the size floating value. So most often we use floating value to represent decimal values. Okay, for example, you can declare 1.0 is also equal to 1, but if you define like there is no decimal value, right, other than 0. So in such situations, if you use float for declaring a non-value that contain no decimal values, you can declare it, but it consumes larger memory. Understood? Okay, so we usually people get a doubt that so having plus or minus symbol, it is okay, but why don't we use floating point for declaring all the values? Because it can also declare a whole number, right? 1 or 2, something like that. Okay, so this kind of confusion will be get by the people, but because why we are not using floating point values consumes larger memory than integer values. Okay, to optimally use the memory, we need to declare values like integer values in integers and decimal values in floating point values. Got it? So usually, let me explain you how we declare characters. So usually char will be declared as char C. This is how we declare characters. You can, this is a name of the variable, right? It can be anything, char, something like this. Okay. So this is how we declare character, and to allocate value to the character, char variable, char val is equal to, we in this way we define, maybe if it is a, we define in this way. Okay. Yeah. So this is how we declare character values, and to declare integers, it is known by you. So I will explain you. Int a is equal to 10. Maybe in this way we declare. Usually declaration can be made like this, data type declaration. Initialization can be done in this way. Like this. Simple. So whole number is a float is also like that only. So we usually define float. So float f is equal to maybe 10. So 10, it takes, like, though it is an integer value, it can take it. Maybe to make it clear, we declaring this float f is equal to 10.0. So this is how we make declarations, data type declarations, and data types are very important because we need to know what kind of data the variable is going to. Okay, we need to know what kind of data we will be using to perform some kind of activity. Okay, so that is all about data types. 3 types of basic data that we use in further like immediate programs that we write. Next, while writing program, we come across different types of commands. Usually, this contains 2 types of commands. One is single line command and multiple line command. Before we start explaining these things, we need to know why the comments are used. Comment is very important to make you understand your program. For example, if you are writing a simple program, a 3 or 4 line program, it is easy for you to understand why this variable is declared and what is the purpose of creating this business equation. Maybe if you are creating some kind of let me tell you one thing. 1 second, I will show you. So if you are creating a mathematical equation to perform an addition activity, so you can simply write a code and you can understand whenever you see that program, you can easily understand this program is written for calculating addition of 2 values, and int a is the first value, int b is second value. In that way, you can easily understand, right? So when you get larger programs, like length of the program is large, or when you create a complex program which contains multiple functions, multiple C language classes. So in that situation, what happens? It is very difficult for you to remember, like, what is the purpose of variable. A variable that is declared is created. Okay, to make sure it come in the program speaks to you. What happens is we comment something like this. 1 second. See, for example, maybe we declaring int val1 is equal to something 10. So in this way, if you declared, so to keep you understand that this is the value 1, and it takes the first value that is given as input, we write a comment. Okay, so this is the declaration of first value, maybe. Okay, first value. In this way, you can declare it whenever you, like, after a while, when you come, like when you open the program and when you try to read your program, you can easily understand the purpose of declaring this value. You can, like, it improves your readability, as it was mentioned to you in last session. The C program is easy to read, right? So when you add your comments, it improves your readability. You can easily read your program. Very complex. Okay, so when we have just 1 line to explain your value, you need a single line comment. 1 line is enough. You can write up to the end of the window. Okay, if you are writing next line, again you are supposed to use another comments, like we use // to create single line comments. If you don't want to use every time when you are writing a comment, if you have multiple times and you don't want to use, if you don't use every time // you can use multi-line comments which starts with // and after writing all your comments, you can simply star and // This is all multiple comments, and your program does not recognize these statements as a program code. Okay, this will be included by the compiler when it starts running. That's why we call them escape sequences. Your compiler escapes this line and it starts using next line. Okay, so while calculating the length of your program also, it won't like technically it won't consider, comments will not be considered. Okay, so usually, like say for example, to write a program, your lines of code also have influence on the operation time, so total time taken by your program to get executed. Okay, if you got more number of lines, it takes a lot of time to execute it, and it also consumes larger volume. So what happens is, like when you get experience, you try to simplify your program as simple as possible, and you try to execute it quickly. Okay, your operational time should be less. So initially, while learning it, you write each and every line, you extend it, and you try to elaborate your program to make sure that it is readable by you. Okay. Later stages, when we get experience, we try to simplify it, and the program that you write in 10 lines now, you might be writing it in 2 to 3 lines in next stage. Okay. So that is how it
Okay.
happens usually. So these comments will not be considered like as a statement or a command by the compiler. It is just a comment, and it won't be considered by the compiler. Okay, simple.
Okay.
Like you got two type of comments. One is single line comment, and the other one is multi-line comment. And these comments are very helpful for you to understand your program, and it improves readability of your program. Simple. Two uses. One is to make sure you understand what is the purpose of using the code, maybe a line below the comment or a line above the comment or a line along with which the comment was written. Okay, so
Okay.
it helps you to understand what is the purpose of writing that statement. The second one is it increases readability. Simple. Here I am giving you a simple example of, you can execute this one, a simple example that shows single line comments, how it was used. Here you can see that to write two different lines, we started it with a single line command, escape sequence / and we wrote comments. Okay, here you can see we can write a comment immediately after the command is completed. Okay, return 0, after return 0 you wrote it. It also considers, but this is not considered as a comment because here / escape sequence was used. Understood? This is how we
Yes, sir.
comments. Anywhere you can write comment, but you cannot write within the program. But after completing your command or statement, you can start writing your comment. In between, within the printf function, you cannot use. It should be a separate one. Now, after the statements, you can use.
Okay.
Here you can see a multiple command that is written, and it includes both multi-line command and single line command. These
Okay.
given to let you know that commands can be used like in the same program. We can use multi-line and single line command. So usually
Okay.
confusion, like we get doubt whether we can use same commands in a program, on a single program or not, whether we can use this command after immediately after the line. This is addressed, I guess. Okay, so we can use as it was mentioned in these programs, you can use any type of command in your code. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
let me start with printf. Here printf function, you know that it is a output function. When printf function is called, the compiler sends whatever the information that is inside the printf function to the compiler, and compiler sends that information to the output screen, and it displays the output. Okay, printf is an output function. Simple. So here, for example, in printf function, we use mostly we use escape sequences inside the printf function, and here we want to write code and learn C in two different lines. Okay, so here if you use printf write code and printf learn C, this does not create any new line, and it prints the content. Like after write code, it immediately prints learn C. So to avoid this kind of situations, like it should be the compiler should print whatever we expect, right? So then we are supposed to give what the compiler understands. Here we need escape sequence to create a new line. There are different types of escape sequences. This is what I was explaining. I was telling, like escape sequence, frequently I use the word, right, to let you remember that one. Okay, so here the new line, for new line we use an escape sequence, which means that after coming here, if you got a new line /n here, it says that now you escape this line and start with the next line. Okay, so this explains that when you are using comments, it explains that now you can skip this line because it is a comment. Understood? In that way,
Yeah.
and it conveys information to the compiler. When you see this one, it says that please wait until you get again star.
And the end. Yeah.
After that, you can continue considering the program. In that way, these escapes sequences will be used.
Okay.
So now, if we want to print a program that
Okay.
print
Write code in one line and
code in
one
two
C in
different
other.
lines, now we need to use /n, and if you want to use a code that prints two different phrases in by creating some space, a tab of space, we use /t. In that way, like we use what it, so to create bold values, to create italic values, to create underlined values, we also use that kind of sequences also. Okay, backspace. Here /b is for backspace, A for alarm. These examples you can straight away use what happens when /a is used, /b is used, and to
Slash T.
single quote mark. You can use all these commands, but as of now, I want you to know that when we use /n, a new line will be created. And if you want to use a tab, a proper means like when we use tab, for example, we got some data that should be printed in this way, maybe price, quantity, and total. So if you want to print three different values like this, okay, your output statement should print these three values as a row. Okay, we
Yeah.
maybe 4 and 5 quantity, total becomes 20. If your output should become, we use /t. Okay, tab will be used for the purpose because all the values should be in a row. In this way, it will be displayed. Properly formatted and displayed output can be generated. In such situations, if our expectation is like this, we will be using /tab. Okay, we use tab to perform that one. I showed an example that explains printf and a new line one. So it prints as it is expected. Okay, so this is a basic explanation about some data types, and I will share you the programs. Okay, last week I didn't share you programs. I will share you some printf related programs only. So mostly we will be using printf and scanf programs. So you try to print them. Okay, you try to execute them and share me those results.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
And please, last PPT and this PPT, could you share me in the email, sir, or in WhatsApp? No problem.
Yeah, definitely. I will do that.
I can go through once, like it will be my notes now. That's why.
Yeah, definitely. I will share you those notes, and I will share you some information, and a simple activities will be shared to you. Please try to use them.
No problem, sir. And
I will start with explaining program, and I will start with different concepts that are related to the C language. Maybe I start with constants, variables, and data types. In that, you can start writing programs.
no problem, sir.
Okay, I will share a video. I will share you PPT, and then I will share you some activities.
No problem, sir.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yes, sir. No, nothing. I'm good with the class. Only just if you share me the PPT of last week and this week, it will be like rough. When I get time, I can just remember the points, like by having.
Yeah, I do that. Can I share you through this one or like?
No problem. You can share with the WhatsApp. Yeah.
Can I post it here in WhatsApp?
Yes, sir. It's good. You can just post it like day one PPT, day two PPT. That's fine.
Did PPTs are sent? You just cross check.
Okay.
No. Day 1, day 2 PPTs are sent.
Oh, okay, sir.
Share you
I will
this.
even.
I will share you this one. Tasks. Okay, task.
Do you know anything like related to mobile app development, sir? Like app development thing?
Which application means which operating system? Android or iOS?
He was talking about the Android one.
Android, right? We can do that. Do you got a task to be done?
Yeah, he started. He's just. This is a new session. It's going on. Last week he did it a class on Monday, so he wants us to do on that. So he gonna tell us today. This is our second class in
Will
the
you share me the
afternoon.
requirement? I will start with that. Not a
No problem. I'll share you the notes
to
and
share
I'll
requirement to
share
me
you the
and
workshops as well.
okay.
So if you could help me even with that, that would be great. Because you said you'll help me with the assessments, no? So we're gonna just decide this is assessment. So step by step we can go on. Because what he wants is he want to do even the workshops 1, 2, 3, 4, because it will be like sequence. End of the day, if you submit assessment, he will think that okay, it's a genuine because you did workshops